Ever tried watching your athlete's game from anywhere in the world? With Replayer, you actually can. I had a friend watch his son's game live from his flight. My son watched a live game from the car while we were driving up the California coast. It doesn't matter where you are, grandparents across the country, cousins on the other side of the world, teammates who just moved away, set up the camera, hit go live, and everyone with a link is right there on the sideline. Live streaming is free. Unlimited games, unlimited teams, unlimited users. No complex tiers. Everyone gets access. And forget waiting hours for footage. I recorded a 60-minute game and it was ready in 5 minutes. Players were clipping highlights on the ride home. One camera, made in the USA, unlimited everything. If you never want to miss those moments, head to replayer.com. The link is in the show notes. Family-owned Soccer Innovation is your go-to source for top quality equipment. Whether you're a player, a supportive family member, or a dedicated coach, they have everything you need to elevate your game. For players, their innovative equipment are designed to boost your skills and performance on the pitch. From their agility cones to their portable goals, they have you covered. And family members, they offer durable equipment that's built to last because we know your support is critical to your player. Coaches, trust me, they can provide the equipment you need to run effective training sessions and shape the next generation of soccer players. Visit Soccer Innovations at soccerinnovations.com to start elevating your game with them. And if you use the code PITCH, PITCH, you can receive up to 10% off your next order. Hello and welcome back to Chat by the Pitch. This is Ian Babcock, your host. Today I'm joined by Jay and Carey Cappis, the parents of MLS player, U.S. professional Christian Cappis. For part one, our conversation is on raising a pro. We dig into soccer parenting, picking the right coach, and letting your player drive their own journey. Breaking down insight that matters for soccer players, families, and coaches. So let's start this chat and head to the pitch.
Hi, I'm Jay, and I am the father of Christian Cappis. In the real world, I am a workshop director for a technology research company and have a couple of technology side businesses that are running right now. But one of my passions in life has always been soccer, partly because I was never the greatest athlete in the world. And so I went the countercultural way and went where all the other kids weren't. And it turned into a lifelong infatuation.
My name is Carey. I am Christian's mother. And in the real world, I am in real estate and in Katy, West Houston area. And of course, then we have Christian has 3 younger siblings. So mom to the 4 Cappis kids.
So do all 4 of your kids, let's start off with there before we jump into more on breaking it on them. Did they all play sports? Did they all play at a certain level? Did they all do different things? Yeah. What was the story in the house with raising 5 kids?
Yeah.
Right?
So all the kids have played some sport at some point. Christian and then our next son, Oliver, are definitely the 2 most athletic of the 4. Oliver did, growing up, he was really involved in Taekwondo and went to several national competitions, and that was his thing. And then he did play soccer in high school as well. And then even now as an adult, he's still very heavily involved in the jiu-jitsu world. So that's kind of fun. Our daughter she tried volleyball, right? And swim team.
Yep.
And gymnastics, right? These are all like when they were younger kids, all the kind of activities that we did. And then our youngest did a season of basketball and a season of soccer. And swim team, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was horseback riding thrown in there as well. So we kind of dabbled in all the activities of whatever the kids were interested in.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think You get four kids from the same household, same parents, same influences, and you've got one at one end of the scale on one area and one at another end of the scale, and you figure the third one will be somewhere between, and you find out, nope, there's a third dimension we didn't even know about, right? And they go on their own merry little path. By the time four comes along, you're like, whatever, we're just going to adjust and go with whatever strengths they have, and you keep on rocking it. So,
Yeah, but it's so great.
yes.
They're all so different, but so good together. They're all great. They're great kids.
I love it because I think they all found their own journey from the sounds of it. They didn't follow the same path.
Yep.
Definitely.
So with Christian, as he was growing up, what kind of kid was he? Was he a early bloomer that just took off, or was he the average kid, or was he a true late bloomer? What type of player was he as a kid?
Christian was definitely an early bloomer. He was walking at 9 months old. I have video of him at his 1-year birthday party, kicking a soccer ball kind of thing. But just generally as a kid, as a person, he was active and happy, always athletic. I really honestly believe he probably could have been a professional at whatever sport he chose. He's the kind of kid that he just picked things up and he was good at it. But we also he was also always a natural leader. His teachers would always talk about that, even as young as preschool ages. Kids would just gravitate towards him. I remember once when he was probably 4, maybe 5, we were at the park with a bunch of friends, and there's this great big tree, and he had climbed all the way to the top of this tree, and all my mom friends were just freaking out a little bit. Hey, Christian, Carey, look. And I'm like, he's fine, right? He's fine. I just kind of always knew his abilities, but he always I never felt he was unsafe. He could just do things. So,
yeah, I always think of him as being happiest when he's competing, right? And it didn't really matter what it was. Even the tree was probably because somebody could get up so high, so he had to go higher, right? And then
their neighborhood kids,
so no one could beat him. Yeah. So, and it was every sport. It was everything. I can remember coming home from work one night. I'd worked an all-nighter. I'm driving home at 6 a.m. And as I'm driving down the street to our house, I look out the window and there's Christian walking down the sidewalk at 6 a.m. I'm like, what the heck? So I stop and I open the door. I'm like, hey, big guy, what are you doing? He's like, I just wanted to see if my friend wanted to have a race. And I was like, say what? Here, jump in here. Took him home, put him back in bed. He didn't remember a thing about it. He was so competitive. Even when he was sleepwalking, he was going down the street going, hey, you want to have a foot race? Something like that. So he was always happiest when he could try and excel or try and measure himself against someone or something. So.
Yeah, what's crazy about that particular story is he actually went and rang several neighbors' doorbells. So our neighbors talked to him at 6 a.m, and I was asleep. He literally got up and left the house without my knowledge, which is really scary. And so then he's literally talking to people, and it's one of those days. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful Jay happened to be coming home, right? What would have happened? But it all worked out for the better. It's a story we laugh out now, but it was not super funny in the moment.
It's a different time, though, I feel. I think back to my childhood. I lived out in the rural side of northern New York, and we'd go play basketball about 3/4 of a mile down the road at a friend's house, and that's where all the kids would congregate in the neighborhood. And I was the farthest away. So at 10 o'clock at night, here I'm riding my bike home in pitch black as fast as I could, because you never know what dog might jump out of the woods chasing night. Or what we had a horse farm down at the corner of our road, and how fast a semi might be coming down at 10 o'clock at night to drop off horses or pick them up or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And my parents didn't think twice about it, though. That's they knew that I was down the street at the neighbor's house, and if they needed to find me, they'll just call the parents' house, and
that's it.
Yeah, it's a different time.
Yeah, true.
as you've gone through this, do you realize, what point did you realize that soccer was his love and his joy as an athlete, or did that come later on with everything?
Nah, that was his thing from day
Mm,
one. It was the number
yeah.
one. We had everything. We had every form of ball you could think of laying around the house or in the yard somewhere, and he always gravitated towards the soccer. Even to the point
Yeah.
where you would, like, when I was coaching a high school soccer team, he would want to go to the practices, and his biggest thrill was like getting to go on the field with the big boys and do stuff in the drills and stuff with them. He was always focused. We even had a point in time where he was playing so much that I would force him to not play for a couple of weeks because I wanted to make sure he was playing because he wanted to play, not because dad was always around a soccer ball and it was his passion and he couldn't go 3 days without getting his foot on a ball. So it was like, it was his thing.
Jay always had soccer on, right? So he kind of grew up with it always in the background playing on the TV, right? And so he knew a lot just about the world of soccer internationally. And anyway, when he was younger, what he would want for Christmas is certain jerseys, right? Like that was kind of his prized possession was whatever jersey of the year. And so, and honestly, when you look back at pictures, he's always in a jersey. It might be one of his jerseys, someone else's jersey, but that was his wardrobe. That was very much, that's just what he wore, were soccer jerseys.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
I think that is something that parents struggle with seeing. From the sounds of it, you let it be his journey, let it be his passion. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times parents get hung up. I'm guilty of this with their kids, with their activities, no matter what it is.
Mm,
Like you want them to always be doing it, always
mm,
watching them. And when it's someone that truly loves the game, it's not a force.
Yeah.
It's there. And talking to several folks about, like, in the sports psychology world, they talk about the distractions today
mm-hmm,
and how easy it is that these kids that truly love something get distracted because they want to fit in or they want to play with friends
mm-hmm,
because they're always gone
mm-hmm,
or at the soccer field. So when they don't have time, and there was conversations of what will our athletes look like in
mm-hmm.
20 years from now? Like how distracted will they be from their true love of the games that they play? And I'm like, if they truly love it, the distractions won't matter. It's Was that ever a case for Christian where there's a distractions interfering with wanting to be with a ball at his feet or doing an activity, competing of some sort?
I don't really think so. Jay, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, but as I was reading through your questions, that letting the child kind of dictate, not dictate, that's the wrong word, but drive where you're headed, I think is important. I don't feel we ever pushed him. Like it was always, even from a young age, like this is just what he always wanted to do. I did, his pediatrician once made a comment to me about how he needs to be in other sports so that he's developing other muscles and we're not overusing kind of thing. And so we very intentionally did like swim team and I was trying like following the doctor's advice, right? I was like, he's got to do other things too. Um, but I don't feel like we ever pushed him. Like I feel like it was always from literally the time he was a baby,
Mm-hmm.
this was just his path. It was always something he loved.
Yeah. We can give you multiple instances of where he made decisions to go the soccer route on his own and not with us driving the decision. One of the big ones was in high school, where if you miss a certain number of days in certain school systems, you end up on probation and you have to go to a special school and things like that. And he was just starting to break into the youth national team and he was traveling with the academies. And so the days were adding up and we would get this note that says, hey, you're at the point where he might not move to the next level sort of thing. And so he had to make a decision about whether to go to a virtual school where he had a little more flexibility or whether to stay with his friends at the school that he was really enjoying. He like really enjoyed playing with his friends and being around them and everything. And he chose to go the soccer route because that was what he was most passionate about accomplishing. And he knew that if he was going to do it, he had to focus on it. So he was going to make that particular sacrifice. And he did that on multiple occasions. Now, I will say that in these other activities, his competitive nature came out again, right? So when we put him in swim team, he was all in. Like, how do I get to the postseason? How do I set the record? How do I do whatever? He was all in whenever he did something, but he always gravitated back towards the soccer at the time that it kicked off again.
I love hearing.
I was going to give a shout out to one of his PE teachers, Mrs. Berman, because she still to this day will talk about, she loved his passion and his competitive spirit, but also, so it could be anything from dodgeball or whatever they were doing. She was like, he was all in.
All in to the point where she had to set him down on the bench to cool down a little bit because not everybody in the PE class was excited about his competitiveness. So
yes, true. That's true.
That's always a great thing to hear. A kid that loves PE. Keeps them moving.
Yes.
Yeah.
So from the sounds of it, he has done a lot in his younger career. So at what point did you realize that soccer was a pathway for his future versus, as I just call it, a hobby for kids? Because I think there's that lovely paradigm shift for kids where it turns from an activity to like, I can actually do this as I get older and possibly do it as a career.
Yeah. I will tell you that his pathway was not smooth and flat, right? He's not like some of the people that you'll hear about. Like they started as a child prodigy and they made their way all the way through the system. It's like he was literally up and down. He would play in one location and then the next season they wouldn't allow him to play up an age group. So he was playing with kids younger and not as competitive and it wasn't as fun for him. And then he would make his way into like a system with the Houston Dynamo who were trying to develop connections in the community. And then he would be let go from that. And then he would join an academy club. And then he would be cut back to the regular ECNL type of things. And so it's like, it's been an up and down journey. So like where it was going to go and how it was going to go, that was largely determined by him and his determination and his ability to play through all of those sorts of things. I think where we saw the changing point was when he went to one of the academy playoffs and ended up making a good enough impression to where he got colleges interested. And once the colleges got interested in particular SMU, and super thankful to the coach over there because like one of the things that did was raised his exposure so that he was being seen by the national team, youth national team coaches. That's when we started to understand, oh, wait, his ceiling hasn't been hit yet, right? Because with the up and down, you're like, okay, are we doing continue this journey, or have we tapped out? We hadn't tapped out. We just didn't have him in the right place to see what his ceiling could become. And these opportunities that came along started to allow him to grow into that next bigger box, which was really important because from day one, he's made a whole lot of decisions. And I will emphasize, he made these decisions. Like we're around, we're his parents, we'll support him. But like he made these decisions on what club he would go to, and what coach he would play for, who he said yes to, who he said no to. And part of the things that we have always talked about is development is your number one job, no matter what level you're at. So it's your number one job as a kid. Like, how do I get the most playing time? How do I use the most skills? How do I learn the most about the game? Who's going to teach me the most about it? What competitions can I be in that drive me to be the best I can be? Like, where do you find the best of those? It's not always easy, right? Especially when you're a parent looking for those opportunities. But he's turned down opportunities to be with some very prestigious locations in order to get that development side of it done. And even to this day, he looks the same way, right? So when you look at the teams he went to, he didn't go to the top team in Denmark when he started out. He went to the bottom team in Denmark and helped them succeed. And that helped get him into the national team pool, the U.S. men's national team pool. And that in turn helped him get to Brøndby, which in turn helped him get to Viking in Norway, where they won a national championship, right? So like there's all these things that it's all about, like, how do you get to the development stage you need to in order to grow and get the next opportunity?
That's amazing.
And I'll say too, the structure of soccer was changing. And I think it's even changing now with the MLS changing their schedule, right, to meet more of a European kind of system. But remember, we went from like the ODP program to then it was like the academies, and then there was like ECNL. And so the whole time he's growing up and kind of moving in this system, it kept changing a little bit. And so there was always this like, well, what's best? What's next? Where is the right place for him?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't imagine it's any different today. I mean, you've just spoken about how many clubs there are in the Dallas Metroplex area
Yeah.
alone. I don't even know how you begin to find the right match, the right fit for your player, right?
So if we're going to go down that road, I honestly believe it's not the club, it's the coach. I don't care what the access level is and what league they play in. It is about what is best for the athlete. So when you're looking at his younger years, did you all look at the coaches, and because you said he never played always on the top level?
Mm-hmm.
He was doing what I always call it the 45-degree line with a tornado going around it, because I don't feel like kids they ever plateau. They're either progressing or regressing, and it's a cycle, and you just have to hope they're going in a upward trajectory. And with that being said, do you think the coaches that you sought out, or were you just as lost as many parents are today? It's, I want to go play for this club and have him play for this coach here because of this league? Or was it truly you had an insight into it where he's like, no, I want this type of style of coach, and I want them to be able to do this?
I think that's where I had a bit of an advantage, because I was kind of in the soccer community as a high school coach. And so I got to see and hear from lots of parents about different aspects. But I will tell you, it's incredibly difficult to know what you're getting with any particular coach until you get some hands-on experience with them. I stayed really, really, really close to Christian and who he was developed by and how he was coached, because having been in that environment long enough, I know that there are certain coaches individually who will leverage players for their own benefit, not for the players' benefit, right? It's like, will this get me my next big coaching gig? Can I do the promotion? Can I move up to the under 19s? Whatever there is. And it didn't necessarily translate into player development. It might have been, look, I led my team to an undefeated season, right? Okay, well, if half of those goals that you got were because you taught your players to dive in the box, that ain't good, right? So we want to make sure that what they're being taught is the things that they need in order to be successful at the next layer. And I was able to evaluate some of that as a part of the process. And I will give Texans Soccer Club the huge endorsement. They're not around in Houston anymore, but at the time, the club director, I literally interviewed him on his thoughts and his ways of approaching things. And it turns out he could answer all my questions, but not only could he answer them, he actually delivered on them. I've had people answer the questions right before and then not deliver on it. And he actually delivered on it. Day in and day out, they got better. One of the running jokes in the area was like, the Texans Soccer Club, they will always suck early in the season. They will get beat by everybody. By the time the end of the season rolls around, they are the best club in the city every freaking time, because all their players develop over that period of time. Other clubs will start off really strong and stay really strong, but they get bypassed by the Texans Club because development was their number one priority. And that's why they place so many players in such different positions around the world, right? So remember that Chris Richards was another one of those players that went through Texans Soccer Club, right? So there was never a doubt that the development portion of it was the strength of that particular club as a culture. So while individual coaches can make a difference, when you're backed up by the culture, by the character of the club in the same way, I think you have a huge winning opportunity there, huge winning combination there.
So as you were going through, I'll call it the coaching world at the time, like dealing with the younger coaches, and what advice would you give parents or guidance in that realm before we jump around too much? Because I feel that's such a huge thing. As a parent, I think it's important to find one that meets your criteria. So you put them through the questions. I understand exactly what you're talking about. Doing this now for almost 3 years, I have a plethora of questions, and I always advise parents to go watch their games at the end of the season, because they're going to be on their best behavior because they know people are watching them. But you'll see who they are if they're a yeller. If your kid does not do well with a coach that yells a lot, or if they just sit back, and then when you go to their training sessions, they're the complete opposite. I mean, depending on what your athlete needs, what advice would you give them for those younger ages?
Yeah, I think you hit on a really important point there. Every player is different and their needs are different for how they learn, how they get motivated, all those things. Some people need to be yelled at, and other people, if you yell at them, they'll break down into 1,000 pieces. And so it's part of the coach's job to understand how to tweak and handle those things. And I try not to put too much pressure on coaches to know those things in the first 6 weeks because you're learning who your players are most of the time. But by the end of the season, you want to see teams that have solidified and have rallied around the overall philosophy of what's being taught to them and how they're implementing it and what they've learned and whether they've improved. I don't really care as a parent whether or not they are the best team in the league or the most undefeated team in the league. What I care about is every week, do I see the team improving? And so one of the things that is easy to do is in advance of you thinking about going to a particular team, if you want to think about it, go watch some of their matches ahead of time. Like you talked about, you'll see what the coach is doing. But if you see more than one match, you can see from week to week, is it inconsistent? Is it continual growth? Do you see the opportunities for players to get on the field? Or is there one guy that's always at the end of the bench and never gets in? Like those are the things you're looking for because you want your player to be on the field. You want them to be getting minutes and runs and things like that. So that's one of the biggest challenges about moving to the bigger, quote unquote, better clubs is like they'll have to stock a roster of 18 players in order to compete in all the competitions. But that doesn't mean they're going to play number 17 and 18 a whole lot, right? And how does that develop you? I don't think it
Right.
is.
As you guys were going through this process now with Christian, how did it shift in your home? Because I feel like that is a dynamic that's very hard for parents. I mean, even as my son, I mean, he's 12, and I can't really compare my 8-year-old, my 12-year-old, my soon to be 12-year-old. It's how did it shift in the home with the conversation? Because at the end of the day, it's like you made it very clear it was his journey. You guys were just there to help with the guidance and give him support. But how did it affect the home? Because I feel like at the end of the day, so many families sacrifice so much for their kids to play sports. I mean, if you're going to go play on a top ECNL team today, you're anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 a year in the starting just by signing up on playing on the team. Unless you get lucky and go play on a top MLS club academy team, and then it's all 100% covered. But that's not the reality for. I mean, there's 300,000 kids playing here in DFW. You're talking less than 0.01% of the kids making the top teams for FC Dallas.
Yeah.
So, how was the shift at home so parents can understand that? Because that's a hard one.
Yeah, I'll let Carey jump in on this one because we had 4 children. So like, how do you manage it so the opportunities that are coming Christian's way are matched equally for their passions and things like that? So go ahead, Carey.
Yeah, so those numbers that you just threw out are staggering, both in the number of players and the finances. Holy cow. Anyway, in our scenario, I do remember, obviously, like when he was younger, we would pay like the monthly dues and all that kind, but it was never to the extent that you're talking about. And then once he got to like academy level, I don't think we paid for anything at that point. But as far as managing our family, I feel like really the only way we were able to make that happen is I was not working at the time. And so I think it was a lot of times Jay did soccer with Christian and I managed the other kids. Not managed, but I kept the home life running, right? So that they could still have their activities and their friends and we dinner at home and that kind of thing. We certainly did. There's a lot of flexibility that's involved. Like Houston is such a large city that I remember one season where I would pack up all the kids. We would drive 30 minutes to meet Jay, so he would drive out and we'd drive in. Christian would hop in the car with Jay and they'd drive another 45 minutes or more up north. And then I would take the kids back home. And then we would do our evening. And so that was just kind of the schedule for a long time was we kind of divided and conquered. That was a phrase we would use a lot in our family, was like divide and conquer. And we just had to know where everybody was at any given time, right? And I think that's probably the same with families today. There's just so much activity, right? Um, One thing at a certain point, we changed schools where they were. Have you ever heard of a university model school? Have you heard of these?
I've heard of it. I know
Okay.
of it. It's
So
fascinating.
yeah, so what they do is the kids, depending on their age, they're either in school 2 days a week or 3 days a week. And so, but at the time, that was a really good thing for our family because it gave us a lot more family time than traditional schooling would have allowed us with the schedule that we were keeping, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I would say I really appreciated the hours with the family that the school provided, but then also me being home full time was a key part to being able to juggle everybody and make sure that everybody's needs were being met, hopefully, right? And that they got to where they needed to be.
I can't imagine with 4 kids. I struggle. We struggle with 2. I mean, my daughter does gymnastics and soccer, and she does a. Since you said what your daughter, I'm assuming it was your daughter, the gymnastics. She is a level 3, and it's like she goes 3 days a week for gymnastics, and she goes 2 days a week for soccer. And they used to be on opposite days, and right now, like we say, she going to go to soccer 1 day a week because they're back to back because she does gymnastics for 2 hours. Has a 30-minute break and she's at soccer. And her coach likes to run right now because there's some of the slower kids on the soccer field, so they spend quite a bit of time running. And she just gets, like, my fear for her is she'll get burnt out on both. But she has a say in it because we ask her all the time, if you move to the next level, you're going to 4 days a week for gymnastics, do you still want to do soccer? If so, you might not be able to play on the team that you're on. And she goes, then I don't want to play soccer. And then, because it's the core of the kids are kids she's played with since she's been about 4. One of them she's been in school been with since daycare since she was about 2. So there's a lot of familiarity there with her as a child, and I look at it as a parent because at the end of the day, it's like you said, you guys laid it out from the very beginning. It was his journey. So how else? And that's what I'm getting at with my daughter is it's their journey. But how did you figure out to balance everything? From the sounds of it, Christian got a lot of not undivided attention, but just because his trajectory was different than the other kids from the sounds of it. How did you keep that? You said they're all close earlier, and how did you guys keep that closeness? Because if one child is getting more attention or being out and about more, it can create a little bit of enviness, I'm saying it wrong, envy between siblings. I'm one of 6 kids. I mean, I can tell you that. I don't know how my parents did it because I was a middle child.
Maybe we should do a podcast with all the kids. It'd be interesting to hear their perspective.
Fun. Yeah, we'll have a therapist on the other screen.
You'd probably get some great stories out of them, actually.
I know quite a few of those we can bring with it.
Yeah, so I will tell you too, we did early on, you get one activity, right? There's 4 of them and 2 of us, and there's a big age gap. So there's an 11-year gap between Christian and our youngest, JD. So like JD was like 6 when Christian moved out. So it wasn't that we had all 4 super involved at the same time, but I mean, we have pictures of our youngest, JD. I mean, how many soccer fields did he sleep at? And how many like taekwondo tournaments did he sleep at? Because he was in tow a lot of the times as a baby. But yeah, one activity. So you were talking about your daughter doing both. Like, we just logistically could not manage more than one activity per child at any given time. And every now and then there'd be like a little overlap, right? Like, swim team starts before this finished, and so you'd have a couple of weeks. But in general, one activity. It's just all we could do.
Okay.
Takes a lot of patience.
And I'll say, it's like, first things first, like, we didn't get it right all the time. Right. It was like, I want parents out there to know, it's like, it wasn't like we woke up one day and said, hey, we can handle this. This is 4 kids. And you got one kid that has a lot of physical requirements to get in places and do things and opportunities. Sometimes we got it wrong. Sometimes we needed to kind of go back and reset with some of the other kids along the way. I mean, I've had moments where I've literally had to go back and apologize to one of them because I wasn't available for them, or I said something short and curt because I was in a hurry to get out the door. It's like, there's plenty of learning to go around for everybody in the family.
Yeah. I think we did. We certainly, obviously, every parent would say this, I'm sure. Like, we did our best, right? We did our best to make sure every child had a parent, right? And that we were available to, that both parents were available to both of them and tag teaming and whatnot. So, but we did, like, we reached a point probably, I don't know when it was, but remember, Jay, I said, like, something kind of has to give here because I'm raising our children in the car.
Yeah.
Because again, Houston is so big. Like I felt like I was parenting from the front seat of the car. And we did make some changes, right? Like, we ended up moving, not because of that, but it just was, once we moved and life just got a lot easier. Like, everything was a lot closer together. So there were definitely some hard times in there. But I feel like every family has those moments, right?
Yep.
When the kids are school age and they're in activities, and whether you're at church or whether you're on the soccer field or whatever, like, everybody's being pulled. And at the same time, parents have their careers or jobs, and there's just a lot going on.
I would say soccer is just one particular situation. It's like what you described. Like, it won't matter what you do as a parent. It's like, you have 4 kids, and you're going to have these types of moments in whatever activities are surrounding your family.
And then their own work schedules of parents. I mean, I'm very grateful my daughter's coach. We were less than 30 minutes drive for everything. My son literally practices.
Nice.
He's on 2 teams. The farthest drive is 20 minutes.
Nice.
With the club. It's just a year up. So he guest plays a year up and he plays age. And the team that's age is literally, if I catch the light, it's a minute drive. My daughter's gymnastics is a 6-minute drive.
So good.
Her soccer.
You have a really sweet arrangement.
Yeah.
Keep that.
Then in the summer, when the summer hits, they go play at a local park, and it's like a 10-minute drive.
Yeah.
And then if during the school year, they go play a high school, and because they sold her club where they were training, they sold the land. Whoever owned the land sold it, and they go practice a 26-minute drive away. And so I'm looking forward to the summer schedule coming back where it's a 10, 15-minute drive, and then Landon practices. It's a 22-minute drive roughly from our house to there. And I don't know how families do it where they drive more than 30 minutes, to be honest. It just blows my mind.
So I know that one of the things that I learned traveling with Christian 4, sometimes 5 days a week to the training facilities for the Texans, which were a good 45-minute drive after they built the tollway. Before that, it could be an hour and a half at rush hour sort of thing. One of the things I had to do is change my mentality big time, because if it was a matter of I got to get there in time, I was so stressed and I wasn't any fun to be around for anybody. But after a while, I started having conversations with him in the car, like on the way back from training, what happened or what he was thinking about or what's going on at school. And it suddenly occurred to me that if we didn't have that long drive, we would have never had this particular conversation, because they would have been on the television or doing their homework or on their Game Boy or something. And so I started to take those as opportunities that were a gift, a blessing along the way, and leveraging that as okay, this is not just all an imposition. This is actually a way of developing a relationship. And I think it kind of paid off in a different way with Christian, like when he went into the point where he was driving and could go do things and could stay home. And it probably started a little bit earlier than that, but because he was always training and because he was always with a team, he didn't really have a huge social circle in the neighborhood or anything like that with lots of friends. So he and his brother and his sister, they were like peas in a pod. They were always together. They were always doing things. They always enjoyed it. Yeah. I think that kind of enforced relationship really has paid off later on, because I know for a fact that they all talk all the time, even though they're in college or overseas or whatever, texting and keeping track. Oliver was Christian's best man. So it's like there are these things that have happened because of these types of things that we could have never planned for by trying to put a structure in place around it. So,
Yeah. And I will say two thoughts on that. Jay, I feel like you were very good and intentional about using your car time with each of the kids. And you've commented multiple times over the years as they've gotten their driver's license, you're like, oh, I'm really actually going to miss those hours in the car, right? So you were really good about that. And then also, I do remember too, family relationships was always kind of my priority with the kids. And I remember, because we went to this other school that allowed us more flexibility with our time, our daughter, Lindley, when she was little, like a babyish, we would do bike rides, but Christian would join us, right? So in the morning, we'd get up and do some lessons or whatever, and we would take a break, and the three of us would go out for bike rides, her and her little carrier or whatever, right? So it was a non-traditional schedule, but it really, I feel like, helped foster those family relationships, which I hope in Christian's scenario has kind of grounded him. And I always knew he had big dreams and likely was going to live overseas. And, but it's family, right? Family in my mind is kind of trumps all of that. So, yeah, I guess was always kind of where my focus was.
I have a question as a parent then. How did you not turn the car ride on into a breakdown of things? Because I'm very analytical, and my brain thinks analytics. My son's his jersey number. He's not my son. He's number 8.
I love that.
Because when I coached him, I couldn't be his dad. And we're talking 4 to 7 years old. And so my way of taking the emotional side out of it as his dad was, let's make him a number. I get numbers. I understand numbers. That's what I deal with every day at work. Every kid on that field was a number. They were their jersey number. And that's how I was able to. But my problem with him is, with Landon, I don't do it with my daughter, which I find kind of comical. One gets one attention, one gets the other. I think it's just the expectation, because that's his dream. But how do you not turn that 45-minute car ride talking about training or breaking down game conversations? I really want him to Landon to start breaking down and talking to me about any soccer game. Break it down and tell me the story about the game. And it's more of, can we listen to Amazon Music? And so, I mean, you're talking short drives. We don't have that long of a drive, but we'll talk about training for maybe 5-6 minutes, and then he wants on music. And it took me a long time not to make the full car ride soccer talk, or whatever it may be. Because my son doesn't talk. He's a kid of few words when he wants to be. And I feel like that's more than he is talkative. So putting music on is more of his thing. And I feel like sometimes that's how he's expressing himself, because I'll listen to the words of the songs he's putting on. Yeah. And I know what mood he's in. But as a parent, you had a long drive. Like, how did you not turn that into a lecture or a conversation? Because I feel like that's what ruins the joy. And as a parent, I share this multiple times, and I share a lot, because when he was one team ago, we were driving to and from practice for 3 weeks. I just got done doing an interview with someone, and he goes, you need your kids to be able to have that safe space. They can turn around and tell you he goes, really, just shut up. Don't take offense to it. But they can say shut up to you, and you don't take offense. And so for 3 weeks, I pressed him hard every day. And finally he says, Dad, I can't take this anymore. I'm like, thank you. He goes, what? It's like, I want him to know, you can tell me you don't have to talk about this. I won't get offended.
Not just
how do you get to that point? Right.
Not just you, anyone, right? That's a part of growing up, is being able to draw that line, that boundary. It's like, okay, we're good. Let's stop here. Yeah.
Right. And I try very hard, and I've done it with my daughter, and she understands it, I think, better than he did. But it's trying to teach them you do have your safe place. You don't have to constantly be talking about what I want to talk about. You can talk about whatever you want. But he has to guide that conversation. Did you ever get to that point with any of your kids, or did you get to that point with Christian saying, this is your safe place. You can do what you want and say what you want, and you're not going to get in trouble?
Yeah, all the kids, honestly. And I'm like, I was watching to see if Carey was going to just be laughing because yes, like I was you for ages, right? It's like after the game, I was like, okay, what'd you think? How'd it go? What's going on? It's like, let's do the debrief. Come on. It's like, let's get this out on the table. It's like sort of thing. And so I was probably the worst at it. Now, over time, I kind of got some wisdom talked into me. Part of it was just being around other coaches and some mentors who like were reminding me, like, hey, you remember how they used to teach us after games that the players have about a 5-minute attention span before they tune you out because they're completely knackered. They want to go home, they want to get their drink or whatever. So you can't keep them for 10, 15 minutes, even though you mean well and what you're saying is right. They didn't hear you, right? And you're going to have to do it all over again on Monday anyway. Same thing with your kids, right? And so as you're in the car and you're doing it, it's like you can say your piece and you can have your breakdowns, but like kind of what's more interesting is that for me, it's how do I prompt to figure out what the mood is, right? Because sometimes the mood is like they need to explode over the referee. And then sometimes the mood is I really played badly. I'd rather not talk to anybody right now. It's like our whole family knows that when Christian's had a loss of some type, like everybody, including his spouse, knows to keep a wide berth for a certain amount of time so that he can kind of digest it all. But I also have seen this with the other kids as well, where like there are just times when they're tired and they don't want to talk. And like I'll ask them questions like, how did the activity this evening go? What did you do? How is it? What did you learn? Sort of thing. Because like I'm fascinated. I don't know anything about robotics. Teach me, oh great one. And they're like, I just don't feel like talking. And you're like, okay, and that's okay. Right. And it's like, okay, but like I get to choose the song on the radio, right? If you can choose not to talk, but I get to choose the song on the radio. So at least I'm entertained while you're being quiet. And so, yeah, but like I got you on every one of those is the desires to be involved, to be a part of it. But it seems to work out more better when it's a natural conversation, like when they have something to ask, when they want to do something, or if you can prompt and figure out what actually spins their wheels or propellers a little bit, right? So some days you can get in the car and you can see like there's something bothering them, and it's like, how do you get that out of them? That's the parenting journey there. What do you think, Carey?
Gosh, I don't know what I think about it actually. For whoever you said let your kids tell you shut up, that I was like, ooh, that's never going to happen in our family. I can't imagine one of our children telling us, shut up. I mean, I appreciate the idea behind it, right? They need to have that freedom and flexibility to be able to say it. But I was like, oh, God, I don't know that would happen. But
it happens once, and that's it.
Oh, there you go. You get one time. I mean, yes, we have certainly all sat at a table. Like we'd go to lunch or grab dinner or whatever as a family after a game or a tournament. And there's certainly been a lot of meals where the topic was all soccer, right? And yet, also, to be fair, I feel like Jay did a good job at, like, specifically with Christian, and it applies to the other kids too with their activities, but like asking the questions to make them think. Christian's kind of always been praised for being an intelligent, he understands the game, is what people would always say. Like he's intelligent on the field. And I do have to I actually think that some of those conversations with Jay is what probably helped facilitate that. So even though, yes, there were a lot of dinners that had soccer as the main conversation that we may or may not have loved in the moment, right? But I think there's some good that came out of it as well. I do think those conversations are meaningful, not only in his development, but again, back to just the relationship. All the kids know that their dad will want to talk to them about it, right? and it shows interest. It shows that you're involved. Yeah.
And I think one of the things that's really important about what you're asking is that you do want your children to be comfortable talking to you when they need to, right? You don't want them to be afraid of that. And if I had to pick out a moment in which I was thankful for that type of confidence that Christian, and I hope that every other child that I have has the same thing, but they haven't had the same type of experience that Christian had. There was a moment when he was in Denmark where they discovered that somebody had not filed his work permit papers right. And literally the immigration service showed up at the club, demanded that he come up there and surrender his passport. And so I was one of the first calls that came after that meeting sort of thing. It's like, hey, here's what's going on. Here's the sort of thing. It's like, what do you think? How does it go? It's like, and there was no judgment on anybody's part here. It's like, how do you take care of that? But it was also a good moment because I talked through enough situations with him over time to where I knew that he would come up with what needed to be done. I had confidence in him. I just needed to be there to support him. But I don't know that I'd have had that confidence if we hadn't had some of those opportunities to spend time together. So doing that development relationship, even if it's like just sitting quietly, trusting that everything's okay when they say everything's okay, that's a part of that, building that confidence and that trust so that when things are not okay, I can actually say it and they'll know that it's not, right?
Yeah. Ian, are you familiar at all with that whole situation where he got deported?
No, I
He
haven't.
literally got deported from Denmark. He had 24 hours to leave the country. As what, a 20-year-old?
Yeah.
Something like that. They took his passport and he had to report to the police station. We're like, what?
It's crazy. And that's the thing. We've talked about making the journey his, and from the sounds of it, you're not helicopter parents. You kind of let him make his own decisions. Like I said, I grew up in Northern New York. The things I did, I'm scared that my kid will follow my footsteps. I mean, granted, he won't because he's not building a tree house at the age of 12.
Right.
By the time he's 16, it's 30 feet off the ground with 3 zip lines out of it.
Nice.
Right.
And that was my childhood. My grandfather was a master carpenter. I grew up with woodworking my whole life. My son has had a very, I wouldn't say sheltered life, but sports-driven life. Everything evolves around soccer for him.
Yep.
And my daughter is, we try to let them make their own decisions. I mean, I tried force Landon to love soccer, baseball, because it's a sport I understood. And I quickly lost that battle when he found the soccer ball. So it's you, from the sounds of it, like you let him make those own journeys. As a parent, I struggled with this. It's not, we're out sledding this past weekend.
Yeah.
I'm having high anxiety because I'm thinking, I know how much, when he hurt his knee and he was out for 4 weeks, he was like depressed. That was last year. That was 2 seasons ago. And but the way he made it up was that he was at practice on the sideline helping coach pick up the cones, learning how to coach. And we made sure that he was still at practice every single practice session. He was at every single game. During games, he learned he would coach. I was hoping it would translate into him being a better communicator on the field. It did not. It's those type of things, I think, that I think if we take a step back and make it about the kids, we're more able to do things.
Another example of how that plays out is like, so Christian has a good friend who he played in the youth leagues with. He was never on the same teams with Christian, but they knew each other through various interactions. And he really, really, really wanted to be a professional soccer player. And he's been traveling to Brazil multiple times, multiple years, paying his own way, going to the academies down there, working his way onto a team. And I think that along the way, he became the best that he could possibly be. And it turns out that was actually good enough. He was about to be offered a contract when somebody blew his knee out. And so that was the end of that. Now, fast forward, because he had taken the initiative and had gone down there on his own money and spent his own time and had learned all about those things that he was at in Brazil, he's now one of the most sought after coaches in youth soccer in Houston right now because his ability to develop players is beyond what others have because he's seen the Brazilian way of doing it. And so he's turning these little teams that nobody wanted to touch into these little, holy smokes, can my kid come practice with you? Can my kid? Really, you don't know how that journey is going to end along the way, but if they feel that driven to go do that, you probably shouldn't be in the way because there's a plan somewhere.
I didn't realize that. That's great.
I think the coach you were talking about really gave a great insight, and I think that is missing. I don't think a lot of coaches get it. My daughter plays for Villarreal here in Fort Worth, and one of the coaches was ranked number 1 in the country as a striker, went to Mexico to go play in the summers and just to play, and he missed so much school that he wasn't eligible to graduate and go to college.
Oh man.
And he could have gone to any school he wanted in the country. Like he had offers from everywhere and he couldn't go because he chose soccer over, and he shared that. And I think a lot of parents, I think if he would grown up in today's world, I think he would have been in a better place because he could have done more of a homeschooling or a style of schooling and get away with it. But I mean, he was playing on professional teams down in Mexico every chance he got throughout the summer, and his brothers, all 3 of them coach. The oldest and the youngest, I felt like have made it the farthest. The middle child, I mean, they all played professionally at some point in time, so it's not like they didn't make it far. But like the track is different for each one of them. The youngest played on was the keeper for the national futsal team just before COVID and during COVID time frame. So their history is all around soccer, and I think you're talking about coaches to understand. Like he is truly, if they had a 2014 boys team, Len would be playing for them in a heartbeat because they eat, live, and breathe soccer. The oldest that coaches allows opportunities for them to play every single day and come train, even though their team training is only 2 or 3 days a week. He finds opportunities every weekend. As a club, they used to have Friday night skills, and I gave them a lot of props. And they said, when we were kids, we were out causing trouble. And if they can come here and play soccer for 2 hours or 3 hours, it keeps them out of trouble on a Friday night or a Saturday night. And they made it a real priority. Then when the property was sold that they were training at, it's been much harder for them. But they do open up Saturday mornings training sessions for older kids, and it's not mandatory; it's optional. And they get majority of the teammates to show up because the coach has the drive, the passion, the understanding of how to develop kids, and I think that's important. I mean, they have a lot of kids that go off to college that they don't get credit for because they are an 8-team club or a 16 club. Yeah. And they aren't a big club here in DFW, and people don't see it.
Yeah. It's interesting. No, you reminded me of a couple of things. Like the first one was the Texans also had kind of this, like, if you want to play, we'll find a chance for you to play, right? So if there was a training session with a year-older team or something like that on a day off when you weren't training, like you weren't supposed to miss your own training, they let you come. They let you do, as long as you didn't slow down the training and create problems, then you were golden there. They even had a way, it was like when you could move players from one particular team in a different league into another one where you could play on 2 or 3 teams. Like when they needed fill-in players, they would call certain players who said, yeah, call me anytime. And Christian was one of those. We did try and maximize our monies when we paid into those clubs, right? How many training sessions can we get? How many games can he play? And I think it was a good experience because he got to see so many different things in such a short amount of time. But even when he was playing with teams which didn't have players that were quite at the level that he was used to training with or playing with in games, he was forced to use his leadership skills, right? And so in certain ways, it helps in areas that he wouldn't have developed had he stayed just with the same 18 players and the same coach all the time. So I think there's something to be said about having those opportunities opened up by the club. So that's really encouraging. I'm glad to hear that. Like, we were always looking for the smiles while they were playing versus the competitiveness. Now, were we competitive? Yes, because Molly and I were uber competitive on everything. She was a UC Berkeley scholarship player at the time. And so it was like, I was just a menial Division III boy player. And so like, it was always fun to play competitive with her. But like at the same time, it's like, how do we make it fun for him? So I think she was a really big, and her father was a really big influence in how I look at things. But I will also give a shout out to my father, who is probably one of the most interesting gentlemen that I've ever met in terms of how he looks at the world and how he thinks of the experiences that you should have in the world, and just demonstrating that through how he raised us as kids.
Today's conversation with Jay and Carey was a masterclass in soccer parenting. Carey talked about parenting from this front seat of the car, and Jay putting the family standard plainly. No matter what level your player is at, development is the number one job. Through it all, one thing ran true. It's the player's journey, and our job is to support it, not steer it. The conversation continues in part 2, where the Cappis families walk us through Christian's pathway to pro, turning down MLS for Denmark, the youth national team, and the day he got deported. A big thank to Jay and Carey Cappis for joining me today.